Sorry.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. I would like to call our Tuesday, January 14th business meeting to order. Thank you all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Revisions to the agenda. Out of objection, I would like to table item letter M. I believe it's premature and we will revisit this in May. I do not. If there's no objection. Moving right along. Is there any public comment tonight? No public comment. Public correspondence that we received this month is attached. Just a reminder for anybody who's out there listening, the public correspondence is just information we've received from the public throughout the month prior to the board meeting. It is not a time to comment on items on the agenda. So the only way to comment on agenda items is showing up in person and doing public comment when we actually be discussing the item and having a conversation about it, so everyone can be part of that conversation. So those are just letters we, as a board, may have received throughout the month prior to the board meeting. Next up is approval of minutes.
I'll move the approval of minutes. I'll second it.
Moved by Katie, seconded by Jerry. All in favor? Everybody? Thank you. Up next, our student trustee report. Mr. Duncan.
All right. Same as usual, we're in high school, middle school, roll down, so start at the top. Big thing, finals. Those are fun. Those are next week. I don't know who to thank for this, but the schedule next week, Monday and Friday off, is awesome. Really appreciate that. That's really fun. Friday is going to be a PIR day for professional development, grading, and then setting up for new classes, as well as some run lock bike training, which is just always a good thing to have in case. And then just a little bit about our schedule. We have a special schedule with some late starts and some early releases just to give extra time for students. So finals week is going to be very student focused this week with all the free time we have, which is very much appreciated by the student body. Moving on, I was shown images of the new rack that is going to be put on the Rocky Mountain Transportation bus for the high school. So that's very cool coming along. Nice that we can have our own kind of thing to roll the tournaments in for any of our sports. Just a great way to get more notice out about our schools. Speaking of activities, the Whitefish speech and debate tournament is on Saturday. I know I sent all the board members an email. We named our title fittingly the Blazing Battle of Wits, the Whitefish Fiery Finale. It is the final tournament before we got into divisionals and state, so we felt that was an appropriate name. It's split between here at the middle school and then the high school. If you are interested in judging, not just trustees, also anyone in the room, please talk to Sarah Miller. It's a great opportunity and it really helps us out. And I was told to include that, but in case you're wondering, it's just some of the debate topics because debate's fun and you should watch it. Talking about the United Nations Law of the Sea, Rome's International Criminal Court, the Republic of Somaliland being granted independent statehood, as well as intellectual property rights. So if any of those interest you, please judge. Maybe you can learn some new things, or maybe not, but it's just a good time. Coming up, the design planning committee has their first meeting tomorrow. And it's just kind of the first step into really getting into the details, the new school updates. So it's kind of cool that we, got it actually passed and it's seeing some things happen. So that's progress is always fun. Let's see, last week, the Poetry Out Loud school competition was held in the Black Box. We qualified 4 students for the regional competition in, I believe, a month. Then after that, they progressed to state. So it's just another competitive thing that our students are able to compete in. We are really starting the work-based learning program at the high school. We have 18 students going into internships in the community, so Logan Health. We have students going to the airport and some local restaurants. That's just for the whole semester. They kind of spend some time in class learning about internships, then they go do the internship, and then they do a little project where they present what they learned to their fellow students. So that's a really cool opportunity, something that's I'm sure will be utilized heavily in the future to come with all these grades, because it's, I mean, internships are hard to get, especially as a high school student and with limited resources around here. So something that the school is promoting is a very helpful thing. And then some of the government students are going to be presenting their policy projects to the city planning board tomorrow. We had this thing where we had to come up with a policy that would fit the Whitefish growth plan. And actually last year, one of the students' projects was implemented into the growth policy. So it's kind of a cool way for students to get involved with the local government. So that's yeah, just kind of what's going on at the high school. Moving down to the middle school. Students return from the break refreshed and ready to go after the 2 short day week, which was kind of weird coming from the long 2 weeks and then 2 days, but it was a nice way to get back into it instead of just 1 week at one time. So also thank you to the schedule planning board, whoever does that. The middle school student council is working on a few things coming up. They're doing another middle school dance later in February, so I'm assuming that'll be a Valentine's Day dance, which is another fun way to get the community of the school involved. And then they're also working on a grant to help with recycling at the middle school for all grades. Girls basketball is up and running. The 7th and 8th grade season has started. They have 2 teams for each grade and about 10 to 12 on each team. And then 5th and 6th grade also started their season with the Whitefish Parks and Rec. So not the middle school, but just getting them ready for the 7th and 8th grade season, eventually up into the high school. So keeping our sports starting young. The middle school math counts team is gearing up for a February competition. I believe that is the one at FBCC. I'm not sure on that, but there is a big math competition that they go to every year. So they're kind of preparing for that now. The new thing this year was kind of the 5th and 6th grade intramurals run by the new intramurals teacher. And it's just an opportunity for the 5th and 6th grade students to come in during the recess to participate in activities. So that's going every day, especially that would be nice since we are getting in the next week. So something to do instead of just sitting inside, play some dodgeball or something like that. Yeah, just a really good opportunity for the students. And then also the spelling bee is being planned for the beginning of February. So lots of activity with students involved this time of year at middle school. And then lastly, Mold Down. Keeping it short and sweet, the mid-year testing has started, so that's going to be iReady, and then the DIBELS testing for all grades, and then mass testing for the 3rd and 4th graders, kind of to, you know, see where we stand in terms of the state. And I'm assuming it would be pretty high up there, as it usually is. For students, if they place better on their iReady test, their names are entered into a drawing. There's 1 winner from each grade, and I really like this. The winners get to choose to shadow a staff member for a day. So, I mean, a stuffed animal's great, but that's pretty cool. It's much cooler to shadow someone personally. I think that. And then they're also beginning some plans for a family night in February, still in the works, but more information to come. Just another great way to get our community involved with our local schools. Takeaways from the districts. End of first semester, coming back from Christmas break, hopefully coming back strong and looking for a good second semester all the way through the summer. Final stretch. Kind of. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions, follow-ups?
Good job as usual.
Thank you.
And good luck in speech today.
Thank you.
And good luck at the poetry thing.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Look forward to that. WCEA update.
Shirt.
She's wearing her. It's like a.
Well, they send you the shirt and they want you to take a picture of yourself speaking at a school board meeting. That's how-
And she does it at other times, not just specifically tonight,
Yes.
right? Yes.
So I was able to do a survey of the classified members. And I printed these out to share, and at the last minute remembered that I'm not allowed to hand things out. And I checked with Dave And I said, nope, you missed the deadline. So I'm gonna show you my nice pie charts from a distance. So this is a survey that I sent out to all 75 approximately classified staff members, secretaries, custodians, playground duty supervisors, paras. And just to kind of get a feel that I could share with you guys about a few things. So I first asked how long have they worked at Whitefish School District, and we got 36% have been here 4 to 6 years. Less than 1 year, 13%, 1 to 3 years is 9%. 7 to 10, I can't tell the percentage on that one. But 16 to 20 years is 13%, and 22% of people have worked here 21 years or longer. So those two big ones, 35% of our employees have been here 16 years or more. I also asked, how much longer do you plan to work here? And then I said, don't worry, we won't hold you to it. Just to kind of gauge, like where we're at. 31% of our workforce is planning on staying between 1 and 3 more years. So probably some of those people who've been here, the 16 plus, are probably getting ready to move on in the next 1 to 3. 5, they're planning to stay 5 to 6 more years was 31%, 7 to 10 more years, 9%, and 10 more years, 30% of people are planning on still working here 10 years. So we'll see. I asked how many people actually live in our school district. 62% do not. I'm sorry, 62% do, 37% do not. It's interesting because I did this survey several years ago, and by far the majority of people actually lived in the district. So that is declining in the last few years. And then I just asked, do you currently have children attending our school? And 36% do. And then I asked, did you previously have children that attended our school? And 56% did. So, but there was 2 comments, and I had a place to write comments, and people could write, whatever they wanted about things. But 2 of them I copied and pasted because I really loved what they said. So one of the comments was, by and large, the classified staff of Whitefish School District are all dedicated employees that strive to help students every single day. We work very hard, sometimes under very strenuous circumstances, for relatively low pay, but many of us have returned year after year because of the students. We are the backbone of the district and deserve that recognition and respect. And then one more comment was, our classified staff is amazing. The days are dependent on factors outside of ourselves. We are in the position to respond to what happens and alter our day to fit. If there is a music program, the secretary's job looks entirely different. If the weather is especially misbehaved, the outdoor staff will have a new set of challenges. If a special education teacher is absent, the para may spend the day training a substitute. If a student is hungry, the kitchen staff will rally for a snack. These response jobs are often the responsibility of the classified staff, and they do an excellent job answering to the challenge of each day. So I thought that just really summed up what I wanted to say tonight. Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for you before she disappeared so quickly? Now you can leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. WEA. Right. Moving on to our discussion action items. Starting off with a really exciting recognition is our school district food service recognition award. Go ahead, Dave.
Sure, it's exciting to share this award with you. And we've shared this out in a press release and things like that, because we just really value our food services program and wanted to share this recognition with the board and everyone. Unfortunately, our food services program folks aren't able to join us tonight. Funny enough, they have to get up at like 3 and 4 in the morning. This is a late meeting for them. So, but I wanted to make sure I shared that here. This was received from the Healthy Meals Incentives Recognition Award for improving the nutritional quality of the district school meals. And you can see a little quote there from me that healthy school meals are an essential part of the school environment, and proven tool for improving child's health, growing, development, and educational outcomes. We really are happy to celebrate this because it's a well-deserved award for our food services program. One of the things it's focused on is improving the nutritional quality of school lunches by meeting weekly sodium guidelines and then implementing student engagement and nutrition education. So we've done a lot of this, including introducing new recipes and upgrading delicious lunch with lower sodium, which is that's a great thing for them to work on and do. I love the comment from Danelle Flanagan, our food services director, saying food brings people together on many different levels. It's the nourishment of the soul and body. It's truly love. So it's really neat quote from her, and we're just excited for our food services program and what they're doing for our students, our school district.
Congratulations to our food staff. A lunch trailblazer award. I love that.
Yeah,
Travel stipends? It
Excuse
says
me?
get to go to a conference. I think. As
Yes,
a
there's-
board recipient, the district also received travel stipends. Is that done for like one food source person or?
it didn't say specifically, and I need to learn more about exactly what that is. We look forward to hearing that.
Really cool.
Was this something we applied for, or like, how did we get selected for it?
I think it's part of that review process of what we're doing, and then they award it to us. I don't believe this was an application.
Yeah.
process.
Great. They noticed us being good.
Yeah, you guys like even more exciting. Like the Michelin stars.
Yeah. Like a
There you go.
Oh, watch it. Yes.
That's the next step, all right?
Secret. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. That's really awesome. Congratulations to our food program. It's sleepy. We're gonna try for tomorrow. Next up, our highlight for tonight is our artificial or AI integration highlight with Mr. Phillips.
Good evening. All right, well, we spoke a while ago about kind of our start with AI in the schools and with staff. And so this is just kind of a follow-up and kind of where we're at now. And then be glad to answer any questions you might have over AI in our district. So right now we're really promoting 3 different programs. We have Magic School, which is for both staff and students, for all staff and students. We have Google Gemini, which right now is mostly for admin and principals, directors that are using that one. And then we have Adobe Firefly. And so that's used mainly at the high school with some of the media classes for image generation or image editing, that sort of thing. So staff do have access to almost any AI tool that's out there. The difference though between these 3 and the others are with these 3, we do have either contracts or some type of data privacy agreement. So data that we put into Gemini or Magic School or Firefly, that's all protected student and staff data. Whereas if they decide to use ChatGPT or something like that, they need to be careful the data they put in there because we do not have any type of a data privacy agreements with those. So so we try to stick with these as much as possible, but there's a lot of cool tools out there. So, they're changing regularly. So these might be the 3 we're using now, but that could definitely change in the future as well. So just have a few highlights about the different ones. So Magic School, like I said, is definitely the most used. So far this year, we've had 151 of our staff at least interact with Magic School AI at least once. And overall, there's been 3,917 AI generations by staff so far this year. Some staff are using it quite a bit, some a little bit, and then some, haven't really touched it. But there's a few staff that are doing some pretty cool things. We've logged 3,490 student sessions with 17,210 student generations so far this year as well. The year just being about halfway over. So, excuse me. So there's quite a few students getting in there and using it. I would say definitely actually here at the middle school in 5th and 6th grade, that is probably our most used in interacting with AI group. So some of those teachers have really embraced it and started to do some neat things. So that's been pretty cool. We do have 25 staff who've at least completed one of the 6 Magic School AI certification courses. Most of them have completed all 6 of them. And so that's a great way for them to get PIR credit and also just kind of learn about AI and how to use Magic School, both for just themselves and with their students. Magic School also does have a certification kind of introductory course for students, and we highly recommend that teachers go through that with their students before they just kind of throw them into the deep end with the AI to work with things. So a lot of students have gone through those courses as well. Some of the top tools that are being used, the custom chatbot. So it's pretty much like ChatGPT, but there's guardrails on it. So a teacher can set it up. So they say, okay, you know, I only want you to talk to my students about this topic, or I want you to talk to them about this from the angle of a 7th grade math teacher or a 7th grade English teacher. You know, don't tell them about this, or don't let them get off topic on this. So you can set up as, I mean, it can be just a paragraph of instructions for the AI chatbot, or it can be 2 pages of very specific instructions on how it should interact with the students. So, and teachers have access to see exactly everything that the student has typed into the chatbot. And so they can audit that and just make sure they're staying on task or not trying to do anything that's not appropriate. Some of the others that are used a lot are the text proofreader, writing feedback is another tool that's used a lot. Research assistant, QuizMe is pretty cool. Debate partners is a fun one. Idea generator. Those are probably the top 7 that are used by 6. I mean, that's about 60 or 70% of kind of all the different AI usage at the moment is from just those 7. There are some other ones that are getting some cool use, and we've had some nice feedback for like the reading leveler. So you can take any text, doesn't matter what it is, and say, okay, please put it at a 7th grade level for my students, you know, and it'll level it to that grade level for them. Same with the text translator is working well with some of our ELL students. So that's been a nice tool. I know some teachers are taking their kind of their lesson plans, and you know, any handouts they're giving to their students, and they just put it in the Magic School and it spits it out in whatever language they want. And so then students can have both if they're you know, if English isn't their first language or something like that. So it's being used for that type of thing too. So lots of cool stuff with Magic School. We're kind of just getting started with it. We're going to be doing some more training on the 24th. Moldown is going to get their first introduction to it. The middle school is going to get kind of a second follow-up, a little more in-depth. So that'll be coming up here, and that should be pretty exciting. So the other 2, Adobe Firefly, like I said, that's more of image generation. That's used in some of the high school media classes. You can use it directly just to create images, or you can use it inside like Photoshop or Illustrator, you know, where you can kind of take a picture, you can cut out something from it and tell it to fill in, you know, what should be there, what would be behind that image that you cut out, or you can take a cool photo, but say, okay, now I want you to create some type of animated background to go with it. So you can do all that kind of stuff with Firefly. So it's a cool program. And then Google Gemini, we're using it kind of like almost like a digital personal assistant. So what's really cool about that is it does integrate right in with all of our other stuff like Google Drive and Gmail. So I use it a lot in Google Drive. If I'm trying to find a document, I can't remember what it was called or, you know, where I stored it. And you can just type in and say, hey, I'm looking for how much this one program cost me. I don't remember when I, you know, put that on a piece of paper, and it'll just find it for me. I'll say, okay, well, here's the document, and this program costs $4,500 last time or whatever. So you can do stuff like that, or an email where you said, I was talking with somebody about maybe about the student. I don't remember who it was I was talking about or with, and it'll start looking for things where it kind of matches that criteria, where you're talking with another teacher or something about a student, and it'll start bringing back, well, maybe it was this one or maybe it's this one. So it makes it very easy to find things that you might not remember, or something that was from 4 years ago. So you can do stuff like that with it. Of course, you can ask it to help you with your email. Maybe there's just a sentence that doesn't sound quite right. You just tell it to spiff it up for you, and it'll pop out a suggestion, and you can go with it or not. But it really saves a lot of time for doing stuff like that. Or if someone gets really long-winded with an email and you're like, wow, maybe I don't want to send the 6-page thing to my staff, can we shorten that, and you say, okay, I want that to be 2 paragraphs, and they'll shorten it down to 2 paragraphs, and it usually does a pretty good job of still getting your message across, but making it a little more readable. So those are the 3 main ones we're using, and then I just put a little bit of why we're using it. Well, there's a lot of different government agencies at this point that are really starting to look at AI, of course, but a couple of them, the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Education Technology, are both really pushing for schools to really start implementing some type of AI into the school system, as far as for both staff and students, because it's being used outside of school. And it's not going to go away. And so they're, wanting to not have a huge gap between those that are able to access it outside of school and those that can't. And so that's what we're really working on, is making sure all of our students have access to it. I can kind of start to learn how to use it responsibly. But the big thing is keeping, of course, the students safe. And so that's why we're looking at these 3 specific programs, because we do have a lot of those guardrails that we can put in place for our students. So that's what we're doing. I'm super excited about it. I think it's a lot of fun, but it's also, it saved me a ton of time. I know a lot of staff said, wow, it's saved me hours of work in a variety of different ways. So I think it's just kind of getting started on what we're going to be able to do with it. So that's my short spiel for it, but I would love any questions that you might have or thoughts on AI or anything, any of these programs or something else.
I wanted to say thank you, because I remember when you brought this to us, and like the thought and research you went into who we could have those relationships with to make it safe, and you are just, there's more and more coming out all the time about how to incorporate this, and I'm not wrong, I think people have reached out to you from across the state. This, and just want to say thank you so much for your forward thinking and keeping us on track.
Well, thanks. Yeah, there's a variety of tech directors. We get together at different times and discuss a variety of things, and so AI is definitely one of the current hot topics. And so, yeah, we definitely bounce ideas off of each other and share what has worked and hasn't worked. And so it's
Can I ask a follow-up? And I don't know if this is you or a Lisa question as far as curriculum stuff goes, but like you said, the idea is that everyone in the district, teachers, well down and up, all feel comfortable with it and understand it and are implementing it. Is there goals for that as far as like at what age or at this grade, like as far as integrating it into like the curriculum standard, that the kids are using it, so that if you have a teacher who never used it in 1st and 2nd grade, and then all of a sudden you go to a teacher in 3rd grade and you had other kids that were, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are we looking at that? I know we're very early in this. I'm just curious if there's a long-term vision for what that might look like or not.
Well, at the moment, no, we haven't gone that route or that deep. Right now, we're just trying to get staff, especially, to be comfortable taking a peek at it, and even if they're not using it, understanding what it is, and also starting to understand that their students are going to be accessing it outside of school as well. So I think a lot of that student use outside of school will also kind of drive teachers to be interested in it. But yes, eventually it would be good to have something, it's like anything else, even just like typing class, at some point you get to that point where you have kind of those different stages that you expect a student to be able to type or a student to be able to use Google. At some point it'll get to the same thing where at different stages you'll expect a student to be able to do this with AI. But there is definitely no standards for anything like that yet, or something like that, but definitely something that we are thinking about, yes.
Quincy, and I would say at this time, because none of the mold down teachers have really had any professional development with Jacob, there are very few of them that are kind of diving in, and those that are really using it for lesson planning, their ELL students, comments for grades. They're not really using it for kids at this point. They're anxious for this PD on Friday. And yes, those are the next steps that we're looking towards.
I certainly knew it would be now. I'm just wondering about this.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Sure. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Jacob. That's so fun. It's fun to see how, but then a few short months, we've really come a long way.
Yes. Yeah. And usage continues just kind of grow. So it's not something that's dwindling off. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's fun to see all the things that Ash is spoken. I'm gonna debate something about it.
Yeah. Well, it's great. You can put in, the subject. You can tell them which side of the debate you want them to have. You can tell it, what grade level or knowledge level you want them to debate at, and so you could have that at a second grade level debating about why they should be able to eat snacks at the desk or whatever they want to do. Or you could have something at the high school level or college level if you want to work on that. So yes, it's not going to be the same as actually having another person, but it does a pretty good job. So, and you might not be able to find somebody at midnight that wants to debate you, but you'll always be able to find an AI partner to do it. So. Yep. Thank you.
On to our biggest project we've had a very long time in the high school, a resolution to adopt GCCM project method with Dave and Lucy.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll start us off here. We have a few people here too who can answer any questions as well. Luke is here, Kim is here. He can answer some questions if you have any after we go over some of this information. We have Megan Morris from Cal Law Office as well online, and she can answer any questions you may have related to this topic as well. But I'm going to start us off by just kind of going over a few things in what's called a resolution and findings alternative project delivery contract. Right. So as you may have heard, the Whitefish School District is planning a construction. Yeah. So with respect to that expansion and renovation of the high school and the outdoor athletic facilities as we move forward. So I'm going to move down on this resolution to the area because you've seen a lot of that information before. There's some key points in here. There's a desire to utilize the same contractor for both projects for efficiency purposes. It's a key point. The Montana Code authorizes the district to utilize an alternative project delivery contract when those conditions are met, right? So the district has knowledgeable staff consultants who have the capacity to manage an alternative project delivery contract. That's a key component. In this resolution, the Board of Trustees authorizes the use of this general contractor construction or GCCM contract. That will follow the requirements of Montana Code, as you can see there, for an RFQ process, as well as other steps in that process. 3 indicates some of the rationale, right? The district has determined that the timely completion and contemplated construction work has significant schedule ramification in terms of completing the work with a minimum amount of disruption. So that's one rationale for that. And the district has determined that engaging and utilizing the services of the GCCM during the design of pre-construction phase will provide a greater opportunity for significant cost savings in terms of value engineering, construction planning, and building construction systems analysis and comparison. And the next section goes into that this doesn't engage in favoritism or bias. Follow the RFQ and RFP process throughout this process. Right. So those are some of the key points I wanted to touch on, and I'm sure you've had an opportunity to review this. There's a lot of language included in this document. But again, if you have any specific questions for myself, Lucy, Luke, or Megan, you're recommending approval of this project delivery contract resolution and fine.
I'm curious how you came up with the dates.
Yeah.
My question too.
The dates.
The dates, and number 3.
Yeah.
They can start the athletic facility in the spring or summer of 25, but you can't start on the building until spring 26.
Those are that is language that helps guide the process, but I think Megan could probably answer a little bit more specifically that, or
Yeah, I can touch on it.
Would you mind, sorry, because the microphone's underneath the podium and that way people who aren't here can hear you better.
Of course, yes.
I will take your picture.
Okay. You can't if you want, but, well, first of all, for those of you that haven't met, I'm Luke Hammond with Tell Construction Advisors, the owner's rep for the project. And so getting things kicked off is really exciting. And we have a big meeting tomorrow with the design team, which is getting things going with stakeholders and starting things off. So it's really great. But to touch on the dates that are input in there, it was in collaboration with the design team and coming up with where we're at now to what we could try to achieve with the schedule. And there's actually kind of a fast track schedule to get the athletic portion done sooner than the building. And there's some key things that need to happen in order to make those dates. But it gets the track and field done sooner than all of the building stuff. So if we don't hit those dates that are in there with the field that's starting sooner, then everything is just pushed to starting later with the building. Just given timeframes with design, with permitting and pricing, and also working around some of the team schedules and, you know, facilities that they need to utilize. So is hitting milestones to come up with those dates.
Okay.
Anything else?
Don't leave yet.
Okay.
Just in case.
So in theory, could they have been swapped, I guess? I'm just
Yeah.
curious what those milestones were. I'm just think it's, I just am educating myself.
You mean the building versus the athletic?
Yeah.
Not no, the athletics is the only portion that could be done early because it's in the field and it doesn't take as much design effort as the building does, and permitting and all the effort that goes into it from the design perspective. So it's a larger effort to get the building portion done, and it takes longer to be able to start that.
So we wouldn't actually be ready to start the building.
Correct.
Great,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah, I have a question, I think, for Megan. Are you there? Megan?
I'm here.
Okay, awesome. So, from what I understand, we have a really creative architecture firm that we selected that has ideas about how to, and I don't really know all the details because I'm not on this committee, which is why I'm asking. Has ideas about how to execute the things that we had in the bond language, but maybe in a way that is different than is shown in the pictures. So how closely do we have to adhere to the pictures from a legal perspective? And how much wiggle room is there design wise?
It's not the pictures that guide it, it's the language of the bond.
Okay. So like where the classrooms are and stuff doesn't have to stick to the image that we presented with the bond. But
No, I mean, part of this process is going to include community stakeholder meetings. So certainly if there are concerns, that would be raised then, but the architect is going to have to come to you at least twice, once to present preliminary plans and once to present final plans. So there will be several opportunities for the community to comment, but the main issue is that your project to be funded by the bond funds has to stick to the bond language. So you couldn't add, for instance, work on the elementary.
right, I totally get that, but you could take the wing and put it in a different place if that made sense to the design people.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I can touch on that a little bit too, because we have talked about that a bit in early design meetings with A&E architects.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think the way they worded it, which was really good, was that the bond language was worded in a way that made it sufficiently vague so that they could utilize their creative design abilities and kind of navigate that to adhere to the language, but also make it most efficient for what their design perspective was. So, yeah, but they definitely need to adhere to the language and
Yeah.
concept,
Yeah.
but they have some freedom to make it most efficient. So
Cool, thank you, that's super helpful.
And the biggest benefit of going through this alternate project delivery method is that you bring a contractor on fairly early, because architects design for aesthetics. Contractors build generally for what you can get for your money. So the goal is that if you bring in the contractors at an early time, they can work with the architects to build a nice looking but cost efficient project. So it's not unusual in that process that changes are made to preliminary designs, because there just hasn't been the type of inquiry done in that preliminary phase as far as, like I said, what you can get the best bang for your buck.
That makes a lot of sense. And we didn't say in the bond, you vote to approve this image. No, that was never part of it. So it's just the words, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dave, Luke, or Megan, or Lucy? No, perfect, I have the dates, any public comment? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion from the board?
Will we approve?
I second, moved by Katie, seconded by Quincy, all in favor? Everybody, yay, that's the last big, well, next big piece of puzzle. I think move on, I mean, now it's very exciting. Thank you all. Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Megan. She's still on there. Up next is our bond update. This is also a big piece of the puzzle, where the money comes from. With Bridget Ekstrom. Thank you, Bridget, so much for being here.
Yeah, great. Good evening, everybody. We just wanted to take a quick opportunity to give an update of where we are, and if anyone has any questions to ask, we've been super busy, and I want to thank Darcy and Shannon and Dave and Lucy to be they're on the bond committee, so we've been actively meeting on the process and getting all the paperwork done so we can lock interest rates and get the money into the building fund. That'll be on February 20th if we move ahead as we're planning, and then we'll know things like bond premium, and you can start to earn investment earnings, and the project budget will come together. So tonight we just wanted to make sure no one had any questions, and since the building committee or the finance committee is very involved, just wanted to have everybody a little up-to-date meeting on where we are. So the attachments in the agenda tonight were the preliminary official statement, which if anyone's having trouble sleeping tonight, it's about 100-page document that you can read at your leisure. I won't go through that in detail, but that's the offering document that for any time you offer a bond security has to be available for people that want to invest and they want to understand what they're purchasing. And then there was also a PowerPoint presentation that was the information that was given to the Standard & Poor's rating agency, and we just went through that process. So that's available for you if you have any questions on that. And then also there was a summary item, which was 7 pages of just some schedules and information on kind of where we are. And so I thought I would cover that just generally. So we went through the 60-day window for voters to contest the election. That was actually a while ago on November 16th. Then we put together the documents that we just talked about. We went through the bond rating process, and now we're going to embark on getting bond insurance quotes, which will elevate us from an A rating to a AA rating and allow us to lower interest rates even further, and then potentially receive more premium. And we'll do that analysis in the next week or so and report back to the bond finance committee. So and based on recent bond offerings for Laurel and Polson and Lewistown and other schools, it's made sense to buy the insurance policy and elevate us to the AA credit rating. So that's kind of the process we're on. And that's just to lower the costs of the borrowing, and then maximize our premium and all of those types of things. So we will then offer the bonds to the public. So in the documents you have tonight, there's a little notice that'll go in the pilot and the Daily Interlake, and the district can put it out too to people interested in buying the bond. So they'll be available for purchase on February 4th in $5,000 increments. And so that notice, if you have anyone that asks you about the process, you can kind of give them a copy of that notice, which is in your packet. We'll have a clean copy out to Lucy here in the next day or two. And then once we offer the bonds, then we will meet as a board at your next meeting on February 11th, adopt a bond resolution, and then we move from there to close the bonds on the 20th. So that's kind of the short of the process. There's a lot of work behind all of those words, but I want to thank you everybody for all the the meetings, and we have a few more. The bond finance committee has, I think, 3 more meetings left, and then we'll move ahead with the rest of the process.
Questions for Richard?
Been busy.
Yes, it has, there's a lot of paper there.
So
So,
the bond rating presentation, that first one.
yes,
It's very fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of colors.
So who did
School
that?
colors.
That's what I
We-
was like,
Yeah, we did it at T Davidson,
you
right?
did it?
Yes.
Who- Why?
Oh,
Like, that's what, like.
oh, who's it
Yeah,
presented
what was
to?
it? What was the
So
intention?
there
Sorry.
are analysts, a team of analysts on the Standard and Poor's side that just wants kind of an overview of the district. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so we picked kind of the high points that you'd want to know, and it's really it's similar to what like a bank would do or anybody looking at your credit kind of quality
Gotcha.
from an individual perspective, but obviously we're looking at it from the school district perspective. So it looks at enrollment and values and financial trends and just kind of a high point of all the main things you'd want to consider if you were looking at the credit of the district. Yeah.
They also, look at like our whole economy, surrounding what makes Whitefish tick, you know, so like if our entire industry was only built on like one thing, right? It'd be like, it's a risky economy.
Right.
Like,
Right, they're looking at.
so yeah, the whole valley, really, the whole thing, it was really interesting.
That's interesting.
Yes.
And things like major taxpayers, who are the taxpayers, what are your tax collection trends, and really everything is very favorable for the district. So as you can imagine. Good job.
Where Lucy's hard work really showed.
I know it
Yeah,
was,
shine.
yeah.
Everybody's worth.
there was a lot of a lot of questionnaires to fill out and write a pretty involved process. So, yeah, so we don't have that, we didn't have that report for tonight's meeting, but at your next meeting, you can get a copy of that.
Thank you.
So everything's good. The Fed meets the end of this month, and we'll kind of know a little better direction on interest rates, and we'll keep everyone posted as we kind of drill down on all the fine, we'll sell 20 years worth of bond maturities, and we'll break down this bond issue into $5,000 increments, and so the offering process is pretty involved. That'll all happen the end of this month, and on February 4th, we'll wrap that up. Yeah, good. Any questions? All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We appreciate it. So nice to see you in person.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, Jake, are you ready? This is where the magic comes from.
This.
The 25-26 school calendar. This is your man. Right, the head of the calendar committee right here. The magic
Thanks
maker,
for all those
breaker.
kind words.
Let's see if he's still thinking that way.
Well, it was good
When
to
you say
hear.
option A, you're going,
Yeah.
"Ah,
It was good to hear the feedback from the calendar for this year. It was, if you remember, it was a little bit unique. We had the calendar approved, and then we came back and said, hey, by the way, we're hosting a divisional basketball tournament. We need to make a few adjustments and come back a little early, which I'm glad you recognized it was a nice way to ease back in. So you have in front of you a couple of options, option A and option B. Really the only major difference between the two is stemming around Christmas time or the holiday break. So option A has the 22nd, 23rd as school days, and option B has that Monday and Tuesday off. Then which also affects the end of the school year when the last day of school is, whether it's in the middle of the week or at the end of the week in June. And so there was some input provided, and the classified staff, they were overwhelmingly in support of the option B. And the certified staff was overwhelming in support of option B. And the admin team, the majority of us said option B seems like it would be the most feasible and logical option to go. So there's your two options to work with. Open to any questions.
Thank you.
Well,
Questions for Jill?
So all your feedback was that people want option B, which is where you get off.
Yeah.
You get up, yeah, I would say, yeah, your last day's December 19th.
Yeah.
Versus December 23rd.
Yeah.
correct.
And I think,
Right.
I think the other, oh, sorry,
Yeah, go
this is a discussion time, sorry. This is just, no,
Any public comment, or are we done with questions? Any clarifying questions? Any public comment on the calendar? Yes, Eden, please. We never have public comment. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to do.
I'm like, oh, I hope I'm just saying the right thing. This is the first time ever since I've been president that the 2-week break has always been the opposite of the classified staff. They have always voted for shorter break because we don't get paid during that time. But we were overwhelmingly for B for the first time ever, and I just thought that was an interesting trend.
Thank you.
I would agree.
Any reason why?
Cause you only have one day before it's like.
Well, I think that those 2 days are just feel kind of awkward in the beginning there, and I think people, you're going right up to Christmas Eve. I think people like to prepare. Coming at the end is different, like coming back earlier is different than having to go to work and then the next day you're trying to do something. So I think a lot of it has to do with that. I also think that people enjoy 2 weeks break, and I feel like they didn't used to, but they do now.
That's helpful. That's very helpful.
I have a comment as well.
You can speak up and you don't have to sit there, but it's really loud.
It's okay.
It's gonna go bad. 'cause we make-
What I really like about B is that our professional development days are on Mondays. If we do option A, that January professional development day is Friday. We intentionally moved professional development days to Mondays so that our coaches could participate in professional development. If we have them on Friday, we lose them to coaching.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you. Back to the board.
So that is why, Mr. J, you have the Friday off, it's because the PD day got moved to Friday because of but yes. Everyone does sort of like it.
It's nuts.
So that is what's different between A and B. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was gonna say, it's not just the Christmas thing. And I know that I'm sort of the Scroogey person who sometimes says 2 weeks feels like a really long time as a working parent. And I appreciate that input from the staff, that it does feel different to have those extra days at the beginning versus the end. So I hope that we can in future still keep that in that as an option, that just because we're going back to 2 weeks, just because this holiday falls on a Thursday, it makes it super awkward and all the things, that it doesn't mean for the rest of eternity, we're not still open to those conversations. So thank you for that. I also wanted to say thank you for highlighting your teacher conferences on here in a much more obvious way for all staff as well as families when they're looking at this calendar, to understand that those are special days. You're not just off on the 7th, it's actually a day. But that does bring up what Lisa had said. Is there a reason we do teacher conferences on a Thursday, Friday? Because I felt like they used to be beginning of the week, because people do run into their coaches are gone for parent teacher conferences. So if your teacher's a coach, which a lot of teachers are, just thought, I was just curious.
Is this,
That's a
I don't know if
question.
this is a question for now.
Oh,
I think it's a professional development question.
oh, okay. I thought it was a calendar question.
I don't know if it's a calendar question.
It's kind of cool.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was sure if there was a reason why the calendar puts these days on a Thursday, Friday versus on Monday, Tuesday.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. I was just curious why.
History, a little history lesson. I think this is the 3rd or 4th year we've brought back parent teacher conference on a Friday. I think this is our 3rd year. This year was the 3rd year.
Okay.
As a full day. In the past, they've all been in the evenings,
Okay.
and it was like a Tuesday evening, Thursday evening, following Tuesday evening. And then we would have MEA days. Prior to the getting the day. I have no idea why it's on a Friday.
Okay.
It's just where it landed when we brought them back. One piece of feedback was that it's nice to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with your students, Thursday night with parent teacher conferences, Friday, parent teacher conferences, then you have the weekend to recharge for the next full week versus a full day of Monday parent-teacher conferences. I'm speaking from experience, you go through a bunch of conferences throughout the day and you're a little rummy at the end and.
Yeah.
So. But other than that, that's my best yet.
That is a good thing to think about though, the future, that the coaches aren't available.
And it happens a lot.
It does happen a lot, and there are a lot of coaches. Especially because that's football season. I think a lot of people. That sport.
I was just curious why it was calendared on those days. That's all.
I will say though, I had some teachers who were coaches and I had tried to set up a meeting, but they were like, I'm not gonna be there, I'm gonna be at the game, but I'm happy to meet with you any other time. So they were all very willing to schedule a time outside of that, and I appreciated that.
Glad to hear that, 'cause that's. what
Yeah.
We've asked them.
Any other discussion? I mean, I look at these two options, and I think there's a clear winner.
Yeah.
As just a general public person. Even without the feedback from staff. Which I also appreciate very much. It's very important, but I'm just saying, like, when you look at these, it just feels like, last year, I think there was a lot of back and forth to which one was better, and which one was like, there was a lot of. This one just feels like there's a very clear winner. So I think option B seems like the obvious choice to me. Thank you.
Me too. I think it's nice to have some days to move into the holiday.
And I also think, like, if we didn't do this, do you know how many kids would not be at school on Monday and Tuesday?
Yeah, it's like
We just work
2 day week.
Educating children is our number one priority. It would feel like they'd be like a ghost town, even for kids who just live here and don't travel. It's like, I'm not going.
Well, and anybody who has to go out of town on Christmas Eve, a lot of people celebrate Christmas Eve, but it's close to Christmas.
Yeah.
You couldn't travel
No, so,
unless you took your kids out of school.
yes, I don't think, it wouldn't be good for kids or staff or anybody to do that.
Great. I move we approve option B.
Well,
I think we just need to add an L on the teacher conferences, K-12 on 11/7 full day.
Oh, good catch.
Yes, we do.
Just for that.
Ooh.
Thing. Awesome. Okay. With the amendment.
With a full day.
With the full day.
I move we approve option B with the full amendment.
I'll second that. Moved by Katie, seconded by Elizabeth, all in favor? That is everybody, thank you, thanks Josh, thank you, our calendar committee for us.
Good job.
We are meeting on January 29th to start the next
Oh,
calendar.
Wow, really? Is that a public meeting? Right. Thanks.
It's not posted as a public meeting.
Oh, good, then, please. No, they know.
No.
They know. Okay, up next is emergency closures. FAQ discussion, but, oh.
Hey, how you doing?
So we're both here to discuss this. We get up in the morning, we discuss this very often. This topic, so both of us have a little experience with it. So we wanted to share with you just our, this is our current frequently asked questions document about emergency school closure. And this has been on our website. This year, we've sent it out at least one time this year. I believe that was in October.
This is toward end October, yeah, in preparation.
Yeah, just to inform parents about this, but then also and staff, and then indicate where it is on the website. But it does highlight some things that we just wanted to discuss here tonight, see if you have any questions for us. You know, talks about when we need to make those decisions. And what happens if the schools are closed for the day? You know, no out of district transportation, all activities are canceled, those kind of things. For that time when it's.
I don't know if the time's on there, but.
Well, not on this.
No,
that's the thing, but we try to make that announcement by 6 AM, and that's a countywide goal. We all work hard to do that, and superintendents, so I'm in communication with superintendents, starting at around 5 AM when there's some concern or possibilities about this, and then and then we would communicate that to local TV stations and everything before that 6 o'clock. So, then what's important in here too, there's the 2-hour delay start. So this has been on our document for a long time. We talked about this a little bit last year. We wanted to bring it up here again, just to see if there's any questions related to that. We can do that, but I think we shared last time too. It's very difficult though to implement that plan. And some of the reasons are, well, the main reason is we don't know typically by 6 a.m. We don't have assurance from the transportation department or anybody that the roads will be clear, or something like that. If we do, then we could potentially implement this plan. But we've actually worked with the county and talked with them and the county road department, and they have said they cannot give us that information at that point.
We've really asked if they can get out and give us some information by 6 o'clock. And they're like, no. Yeah, it makes it really hard. The highways, so there's two different departments we gotta think about too, is there's the highway department, which is your main thoroughfares coming in and out. Those are almost 24-hour, like they're moving. And then the counties are the ones that are the hardest. That's the wild card, because they don't start. The earliest they've ever said would be 4 a.m. And so usually it's 4:30, 4:45 before they're getting out to these county roads. And you think of all the county roads in Flathead County, it's not just Whitefish, so it's everywhere. And they have some certain areas that they hit first and then they go through and work through that. So makes it really challenging when we have a short window from about 4:45, 5 to try and make the decision before 6 so that we can get information out.
Yeah, and I should have highlighted too, we're meeting, when we do make these decisions for our school district, we're meeting with our transportation director, myself, and our transportation provider. So Seth is on the phone with us, communicating. Our transportation provider is out before 5 a.m. Probably around 4:30, and traveling the roads, looking at the routes to see how they look. We're looking at all kinds of different websites, weather information, and sites that talk about what the roads look like, things like that. We're analyzing that from our perspective. And sometimes we even get in the car and drive ourselves just to take a look. So, but again, it's by 6 a.m. we make that decision jointly with the transportation provider. And then we communicate that out to other superintendents and then to local news stations, etc. So that's how that process works. But again, I do want to highlight, we can make that decision of a 2-hour delay, and it's possible. If we had some assurance, that, it looks like it's going to be clear and everything looking good for around 10 a.m. or close to that time, we could do it. And our provider says that they could do it.
Yep.
Any questions related to that?
I noticed that some districts, instead of having a snow day, they do like a remote day. What is our, like with mixed results, what is our district's approach there?
Yeah, we've had this conversation before as
Yeah,
well.
are we still?
Yeah.
I believe it was in almost this setting
Yeah.
to where
We're
it's
still-
really hard to, especially if it's in the morning. Let's say it's tomorrow morning. We have no inkling, all of a sudden we get a bunch of snow or ice storm, whatever that is. It's hard because a lot of these, I don't know, John Case kindergarten and or your school doesn't take their devices home. No, 5th and 6th grade don't take them home. So 7-12
Right.
might happen. And then they might have their material. So it's really hard to say, hey, we're going to a remote day when they don't have material.
But if you knew ahead of time, like the forecast says.
That's something that we could consider.
That you could potentially.
Last year we had the really cold snap. We were considering the next, like, we were talking about it at noon. Saying, hey, we know it's already 20 below with wind chill right now at noon, and it's gonna get colder tomorrow. We can anticipate something where people take things home.
Okay, so it is on your menu.
It could be, yes.
Okay.
It could be, and we talked about how even, that would be more rare than even
The
late
late
start.
start.
Correct.
Because I think like, the condition I can think of is the one you just shared, that gonna be 40 below.
Yeah.
Right? That, and with a wind chill of this. That's pretty clear, and we may be able to make that decision ahead of time. It's hard to make that decision in other circumstances. I have a hard time speaking about what that. But it's possible.
But
Like you
if you
said.
do the remote day, you don't have to do the snow day to make up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I think what one, remember when we talked about this last time, we talked about a lot of inequalities in
Right.
education at that point, and
Yes.
if kids are getting on, if, you know, they have help at home.
Right, this is the quality.
The quality of it, and, you know, it's kind of a scapegoat, you'll be like, well, we were in school, but were they really in school? They could say they were in school.
And almost that it was harder on teachers, I remember that came out too, because then it's like, do you count it as they learned it, but then like.
But then they're really
redo
going
it all.
back.
Yeah, you gotta redo it all. Yeah.
Might as well come back for a 2-day school week.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to these.
I think you brought up the snow day, so you do have one snow day
Right.
per year. That you
Yeah.
can do
Oh, like
without
one
making it up.
freebie.
Yeah.
And then you have snow days in your calendar that you can use. But if that doesn't happen, or if you've gone through all those, then you may start thinking.
Then you
Yeah.
might.
You might, think, is that something we want to consider?
If we're in danger of not meeting our number of days,
Correct.
then that's a consideration.
I remember talking about it, but I didn't know if we'd evolved with our thoughts, but it sounds like we're pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I remember from. Section, but it's there.
And online is not the best teaching. When I had all 5 at home, it wasn't good. That's all I know.
Thank you so much, Josh.
One last thing, just remember weather here is a lot different in Kalispell, a lot different in Columbia Falls, and sometimes those schools make decisions. You know, even the canyon versus here, a lot of different decisions are made, and we might catch flack for closing or not closing, and other schools are, but it's based on those conversations we have.
Yep.
Can I add one last thing?
Of course, I'm sorry.
We do have the ability, if we do need to close a route or revert a route, let's say KM Ranch Road is one that always comes to mind. It's a road that gets pretty sketchy with ice or conditions. We have the capacity to inform all of those riders and those families that say, we're gonna do you know, if you choose, here's our collection area that the bus can get to. But this route is not running today. That way we don't have to shut the whole school down for 1 or 2 routes not running. That's something that has evolved over the last 8 years. Again, trying to provide that equality.
Not an easy job.
No.
Those are hard, those are probably the hardest decisions. to make.
Totally hard, and if you can't win,
No.
like either way, people are gonna be.
Cause in
That's
2020.
Any other questions for Josh?
Yeah, I have one. Have we, regarding our options of how to notify, have we considered social media and that sort of thing?
All that, yes.
Because it doesn't list that, it says list.
I should probably update it. Emails. It goes email, phone, text to the families. Facebook. Our school website, everything that we have.
TikTok video.
Not TikTok.
I would imagine those are like our official communication channels, and Facebook isn't quite considered an official communication channel.
But it would be put on.
It would be put on there,
It
but
is.
it wouldn't be your official
No.
way to notify people of something.
No, it shouldn't be the only way.
Especially with radio, I don't know, maybe radio,
What?
does people listen to radio?
Yeah.
Apparently, it's still around.
It was free.
It's pretty simple.
Good question.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and one more, so in regards to, and this comes from PTSD from when I was in school, in regards to the people who, on those bus routes, if they don't, do they then have to make, how does that work for them?
Like if we closed a route down.
Correct.
Yeah. Doesn't affect.
Where I went to school, they would close all the bus routes down, make the city kids go to school in county.
Everybody that came Ranch Road kids would have to go to school.
Fair.
You should talk to Josh before you look at mine, so you know what those routes are the best. Oh, that's on the page.
Yes.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Something we've been anxiously waiting for and are excited for an update on is our school climate survey.
Yeah, I just thought I'd give you a little bit of an update of the schedule for that, or the anticipated schedule at this time. So the school district will be conducting a school climate survey in the public schools in order to provide guidance in our continuous improvement process. It will be distributed through email to staff and parents, and will be provided to students in grades 3 through 12 in the school setting. Parents will be able to opt out their children out of the survey if they make a request to their building principal. Right now, we're anticipating that a request would need to be made by January 23rd. Copies of the survey will be available for parents to review at the school district office. And those surveys will be distributed, we're anticipating right now, January 27th. These surveys will be anonymous, so will be conducted by a third party as well. But this is kind of our first kind of providing that information, and more information will be coming soon about those surveys. Thanks.
How long is the survey window open?
I'm anticipating, looking at some notes I have down here. February 3rd.
Okay.
It looks like a week, yeah. That might need to be adjusted, again, because that week of the 27th is what we're anticipating getting those out, but we don't know that date yet.
Dave on the climate survey.
I guess how, have they shared like what the turnaround is then, if you take the survey, the third party, and then when do they get results, how long does it usually take them to get back to you with the results are?
My understanding is this fairly quick, we'd be getting those back. Possibly, if the deadline was the 3rd, we'd be getting them back by the 6th. These are all possible.
Really fast.
Tentative dates. The 12th, we would do make sure we share that information with our staff in some meetings. The goal is to have that ready for the February work session, so we can have some conversation here with the board about the school climate survey.
Like a great time. Any other questions for Dave on the climate survey? Thank you, Dave. Thanks for getting that going and getting that on to the February agenda. That's exciting. This is like the most exciting agenda of all of the whole year.
I know.
We all wait for it.
I know, ready? The Flathead County Superintendent Statistical Report.
Yeah.
I love this thing. I know. Really, it's so fun. And it's all color coded this year. It's so pretty.
love it too, and the colors are really helpful.
I know.
If
they are.
I'm reading the page numbers, I just go to a blue page and.
It's funny.
You don't really get that. So again, this is something that the office of the Flathead County Superintendent puts together. And what I like is that they just keep that same format year from year. So if we wanna look at a number from 2 years ago, the report looks exactly the same. And I like the standardized. We're not gonna go over everything. I'm sure most of you who are familiar with these reports from the past, usually you like to dive into those and your own. I tell you, I wanna share something that is my favorite, the 2 favorite pages of mine. Are page 9 and page 17, orange and blue. And that shows the percentage of funding by community members in the form of real estate taxes. Okay, on page 9, which is the yellow page or orange page, it shows the data for the general fund only, which is our main operating fund. Page 17, the blue one, shows that same data, but for all budgeted funds. And when you look at those numbers, it's more than 50%. We get more money than any other district in the county from taxpayers.
Could work better.
It's actually because we get less from the state, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's something to always remember and be grateful for. And I am grateful every year I see this report. And I would like to thank you, all our taxpayers, for supporting our schools. Do any of you have any questions about any other data on this report? I know it's a lot.
I can't believe I've asked this before, maybe I haven't, just forgotten. What is ungraded? Hey, page 2, top.
Page 2. Ungraded.
We have 29 of them.
I do not know that.
They're so good, we didn't give them a grade.
I need to
I
look
didn't get
into
that.
that.
That'd be good to know. Maybe it's not that difficult, I don't know. Live on an ungraded, note, I don't think that's the thing.
Yeah.
You mean on page 6?
Page 2, maybe I'm again on page 6. On
This
page-
homeschool ungraded K-12.
on the top of page 2, it's ungraded. on
Means
page-
you're not assigned a grade, not like,
No, they-
like
we
an
don't-
age, like.
Yeah.
one,
I'm just
two,
thinking
three.
that is that for our little kids who are like our pre,
Pre-K?
yeah, our pre-K kids?
That now we do include in our.
That
enrollment.
Do we have
were
29 of
included in
those?
our enrollment.
It's too many of them.
29.
29.
29 is too
Well,
high.
did we have
Now we're
half and
including,
half?
If you think of, we have our preschool special education. program.
Could it
And we
be,
also have our early literacy.
could it be
Just about
independent high school?
No, because
They
they're,
assigned a grade? but they-
Yeah.
they are-
Yeah, they are assigned grade.
this is, yeah, because this, I thought it was gonna be our kiddos that were our, early literacy and our pre-K kids.
That's what I would think, but I have to look
Yeah.
at it, but I think that's my guess.
Page 2 of
The letter?
no.
To the report.
Page 2 report, where it says like kindergarten, first,
One
second,
very
third,
top.
eighth, at the very top, it says
It's actually
ungraded.
page 3 on, it's listed on, it says on the top page 2, it's actually page 3 of the agenda.
But instead, like, before kindergarten, it says ungraded, it's like almost like they're pre-K kids.
It says page 2.
So I see.
I think they're pre-K by the computer.
Yeah.
Instead of
it's page-
ungraded.
It's the third page, but
Okay.
they're apparently starting at 0,
Yeah.
which is fine.
But that makes sense to me because, right, and then you have 90 in Kalispell. You have 27 at Evergreen, I mean, it's, when you look at what schools would probably be supporting those programs.
I'm going to reach out to the county superintendent office and just ask them how they expect that.
That sounds good.
Would it be okay with everybody?
I
love it.
Yeah, get back to you.
Thanks, Lucy. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate you pointing that out, so that how much of our funding comes from
Yeah.
taxpayer versus state
It
is.
It's
Interesting.
significant when you, it is a significant difference, compared to the other districts. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving right along to out of district students, Mr. Means. Sorry, I know we got to see, you guys are really, I know, but.
Right, I'm ready.
But-
So yeah, it's the,
That needs to do.
you have a list of students here across many different grade levels that are recommending approval of these out of district enrollment applications for the following students for the 24-25 school year. So these are would be coming into the school right away. Any questions?
What's the grade distribution?
These are K through 8.
No high school. in these?
Not in this group.
Not in this.
And do we currently have any grade levels that are closed?
Yeah.
Well, we do in a way, one of our grade levels that is reaching that capacity and reach that capacity through this process is grade 8.
Okay. Which is big anyway.
Hmm.
It's one of our more concerns.
Any other clarifying questions today? Any public comment? Back to the board for further discussion. Motion.
I move we accept them.
Approve as presented.
As presented, thank you.
Moved by Randy, seconded by Katie, all in favor? That is everybody. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, everybody. We have one more out of district application, Dave.
And this is a recommending denial now of this application for that very reason that we talked about, that some grade levels are at capacity and above the 87% of the accreditation cap for the grade level as referenced in our strategic plan. So this one is recommended for denial.
Any clarifying questions? Any public comment? Potentially board for discussion or motion? We approve as presented.
I'll second.
Moved by Quincy, seconded by Jerry, all in favor? That is everybody, Lucy, thank you. All right, moving right along to recommendations for hire.
Okay, so in front of you have the recommendations for hire for both guest teachers as well as positions such as our basketball coach, long-term substitute, and technology support specialist. Question?
Public comment? Back to the board for discussion or motion.
I guess I just had a quick question, just for my, sorry, I should know this. Is boys basketball on right now?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Boys basketball is going right now,
Correct.
correct? Okay, I'm like, am I that out of a loop that, so do they just currently not have?
Just for freshmen.
Yeah, so they've just been
practicing.
practicing. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yes. Yep. Way to be on it.
Obviously.
You're athletic guru though. I don't even know what season one.
I don't know. Sorry, I moved to approve as presented.
I'll second. Moved by Quincy, seconded by Kate, all in favor. That is everybody, Lucy. Thank you so much. Oh, actually, my turn. No, yes. Yeah, wow. Just making sure I didn't put my page wrong. Up next, we're gonna just a human resource discussion. And one of the things as a board, we've been discussing the need for some sort of human resource person, personnel, assistance in the district office. And I guess we can talk about that as a board. I'll just get it started if you want to, but what that looks like. At this point, we're not sure whether that's hiring somebody, rearranging the current, distributing the current district staff and moving things around, but the task has been kind of handed down to look at finding some sort of human resource assistance for the district. Anybody else want to say anything or?
At one point, you talked about surveying other schools or talking to public schools. And it seems like you said they had hired somebody.
Yeah.
They have like two like clerical people that help. They do not have like a human resource.
They have like a tech.
Yeah. That help with human resource activities and stuff, input. And
Do they have a specified person that is responsible for those two? That's. Sorry?
The superintendent
Oh, responsible.
of supervising those individuals.
Right, but who does the human resource?
The
That
superintendent.
is still the human resource like director per se. They're just inputter of information or helper of gathering information.
Have about 250 employees as well. Probably.
Right.
Yeah, probably a few more.
That's big one.
So it's just maybe the way they've chosen to structure
Right.
theirs.
Question time or discussion?
It's just all discussion.
Okay.
This is just a discussion.
So I'm curious, about the timeline. Because I feel like what we talked about was the need to establish a HR function outside of the chain of command to support everybody in that process. And so I feel like we would have a better idea of how this would work best with the insights from the climate survey, as well as insights from the communication audit. I feel like that would inform us in terms of how to structure this. I think that like Rainey's questions kind of point to the idea of, would there be a way to restructure our current staff to cover this position without hiring a new person? Or do we need to earmark money for a new person? So I guess I'm curious about timelines, like when will we have, sounds like we'll have the climate survey end of February. And then I wonder when the communication audit report would be finished, because I feel like that consultant will probably be able to give us insights about all the feedback they got from all of the district leaders and staff and personnel that will help inform us about this, about how best to do this.
Yeah, the communications, we don't have the specific timeline, you know, in a recent meeting, we talked about May, but it could be certainly earlier than that. We certainly hope that it's, you know, I think I have a projected timeline on my board of March or something like that.
Okay.
We've talked about, but I'm not sure. It depends on some factors, getting the information out there and making sure we're asking the questions of the school board and others want us to ask, and that person's involved in that process. I guess I need to get specific and.
Right.
Could you just clarify the responsibilities that fall under HR? Like typically it seems like it's onboarding people, verifying benefits, hiring, firing, maybe like family leave kind of issues, salaries. Like the HR does not define the salaries, but you know, just. Is there
Well, in
anything
the
else that
school
HR
district, the big part of what anybody who would be involved in human resources, and if it was an administrator positions, those. They are following all the policies and procedures set forth by the school board. They're also, or the policies set forth by the school board and procedures that are attached to those. Related to hiring. Investigations and process and procedure, but also what informs that process are the CBAs for both the collective bargaining agreements of the Whitefish Education Association, like this last Whitefish Association. So we've had to follow all those procedures. Human resource person would be able to assist with all kinds of things if there was an administrative position. They could, but they need to follow all those procedures just like we do now. So my position kicks in a lot of those procedures in terms of supporting process, right? And how we follow those things. But I guess I give you an idea. For instance, we approve on a regular basis position open and what that looks like. In the position description, job description for each opening that we do.
the HR would track out of the district wide?
If that was a responsibility we wanted to put on this, you know, you could determine what this person could help and assist with, but that's one, an HR person, and two, they can help and support staff in terms of what process to follow and who to talk to. They can also help support administrators in following the appropriate process to support staff. If they have questions, it could guide them about leave right? Or you know, family medical leave or many other things related to that. They could assist with the hiring process and guiding the administrators and staff through that process and what the procedures and process are related to that. If there needed to be an investigation into something, they could assist with that process. They wouldn't necessarily be directly involved, but could assist in determining what that process looks like, and how that works, and guide people through that process.
And which of those would a tech be able to do versus a manager?
The tech is gonna be able to do a lot of the review of, we haven't even touched on the full side of time records, you know, that kind of thing. Staff being involved in terms of supporting that. Lucy and the business office takes on a lot of that, as well as our current business, our secretary in the front office does a lot of that work too, in conjunction with the business office already. Our administrative assistant, Amy at the front office, also is considered, has a role of human resource technician as well, so she's supporting a lot of these components. So when for instance, when someone wants to post a position, she's going to look at that information that's been presented to her, look at what we had at previous postings, share that with the administrator who's requesting to post a position, reviewing that job description. Then they're putting a request to me to review that position description and that posting possibility and timelines associated with that kind of thing, and making all those determinations. And then we approve the posting.
So it sounds like it's pretty fragmented.
Well, there's a lot of different people involved, and there would still would, right? 'Cause
Yes.
There's components of business, office involved in a lot of things, and there's also components of assistance in the process, right? And then there's components where only an administrator can.
It seems like if we can define roles and responsibilities and figure out that it would take 0.5 someone's effort to do the administration or whatever.
Yeah, and I think you'd have to, you know, couldn't do, not a 0.5 person couldn't do all of it, correct? So you'd have to specify specific components of responsibility for HR if that's the desire.
But it seems like we need to define what's needed. Like, do we want one primary person?
I think we need to speak up so people.
Oh,
everybody
yeah,
here.
sorry. We need to define a primary position for that. And that, and if you looked at an organizational kind of chart, who would provide input to that person, but have kind of a conductor that wasn't necessarily the superintendent or finance person. It just
Yeah,
seems
so
like-
no matter what, HR in a larger district, that person reports to the superintendent. So
Right.
that person is there to follow all the process and procedures that are established, support in whatever they've designated for that human resources person. So we would have to do that if we're to consider someone else for that position and to support. Then I would oversee that position, but support them in implementing whatever those job responsibilities are.
Well, for clarity, can we?
Well, I think, and to your point, and I think Katie's point is identifying the need and what is the need and defining that role. The communications audit and the climate survey are gonna be huge pieces to that, in addition to what we already know, but I think just, you know, getting more information to define the role, I think. Because right now it is kind of this cloud, yeah.
So the reason we decided to put it on this agenda was because we needed to, if we did wanna hire a position to do this, then we have to earmark money for the budgets before we go to the IBB meetings.
Right.
Right? And so, but at this point, without that information, it's hard to know, do we need $150,000 for a full-time, you know, director of HR kind of level, or do we need a technician kind of level? So it's just kind of challenging to make that decision at this time because we don't have the information. that we need, but I feel like we needed to make this decision at this time before the IDB started, right? This time.
I think it's helpful, but it doesn't, I think we're okay.
Okay.
To continue to discuss it, and I think it's very wise to, let's look at some information, have some conversation with consultants, and we're gonna have a meeting here soon with another consultant. Where we'll have some conversations about what are the needs,
Right.
if there is needs, and how we're gonna address it.
Okay.
And then I think, there's still the option, we have to, like, the need is apparent, and there's less money, we can hire a technician to help take some of the load off of the district office. And redistribute what we currently,
Right, we can restructure.
we can
things
restructure.
To
for
cover that,
district
to
division.
streamline it.
Yeah, right. So, there's still options that don't have to cost money.
Right,
So. We have possibilities.
right.
It was just more of, I think, important to alert. To have the conversation and be upfront about what the board is requesting and.
Looking at.
Yeah.
Can I clarify the communications audit? So I have a concept of what the school climate survey will look like as far as the email and the communications audit. What format does that take? Because it sounds like there might be some overlap of that audit happening at the same time as the school climate survey. And I wonder if we're gonna like oversaturate our people,
I completely agree. It's
like
an
having
issue,
them at
so,
the
yeah.
same time
Yeah.
is kind of tricky.
But we, our consultant contract will be reaching out to the board members, see what feedback on some of the questions that they would like to ask and those kind of things. And so we want to make sure that we aren't asking the same question and not overlapping in some of that. And that has the potential of happening a little bit, but I think it's important for them to reach out to you and get some more feedback. Discuss that.
Okay.
Is that the climate survey or the communications?
I'm sorry, did I say climate and communication?
Oh.
Communication is only staff.
Right.
And
Okay.
survey is one option, it doesn't have to be, it could be an option that communications get some information, but it's not the only, there could be some conversations.
But that format hasn't yet been. Okay, so that's
It's not
pretty
been
early
finalized.
in its stages of getting implemented. It's a communication about it. It's pretty.
I'll talk about it, I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Okay, great. Okay.
Or, but we can,
I was just thinking the timeline like you were saying about IDB, so we're way,
Yeah, no,
way from getting that. one
the
yet.
communication of it is a little bit further down the line.
And the climate is essentially done because it's. distributed.
Okay, right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, it seems, and by defining the role a little more clearly, then does that take the principals, assistant principals out of the running for that?
No, because we don't know what the role is necessarily yet. I don't think.
Okay, for the HR. Yeah. And how, so based on what the climate and communication surveys give us,
It'll help guide us. It's not, I don't think it's gonna,
Just. Sorry, we
I
won't
was-
cite all them.
it won't provide all the information. I think no matter what, the board's still gonna have the directive of saying, we need somebody in this capacity, we need a person in this role.
I think that's why it'll be really helpful for, is it Darlene that's doing the?
Yes.
For Darlene to talk with all of us about what kind of questions we want, and then we can make sure that the questions that the communication audit puts out there will answer the questions that we have. That the kind of data that we get will inform our decisions. What's great about the climate survey is it's that PBIS tool, so it's really prescribed, it's the standard tool, and we know exactly what the questions are gonna be. What's interesting about that tool is it really focuses on relationships in school, but doesn't get it all into chain of command. Or any of that, so there is a gap on that survey that I feel like the communication audit can directly address.
Great explanation. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, good job, Katie. You could tell this is your area. of
Yep, this is
expertise.
your world. Thank you.
We're in Katie's world.
Yeah.
It's like total PhD, right?
Yeah.
Like first you do the survey, then you follow up with the questions, then you collect your data, yeah. Yeah, it is, it's research land.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. That's very fun.
So yeah, so that's just kind of the update there, what we were.
So the discussion here and previous discussions about this have been great, but they've all been really squishy. Can we put some timelines on this? Do we need, I don't know if we need to get a committee together. What do we need to do so that we're not here next year going, oh, this didn't happen and now we're waiting for another communication. Can we have some sort of a task oriented.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, we can. I hate the word committee.
Well, so do I, but
But-
I mean, something has got to happen so it doesn't just sit there and
Right.
A task force.
Maybe we
Whatever.
can move into, yeah, I feel like this is all trustee announcements type stuff, because it wasn't just with this, it was with a lot of our priorities. I feel like, we were so tired at the end of that meeting. And worn out,
I
so
know that.
we probably want to revisit that.
So, yeah, so why don't we move this down to talk about this in
Time like on our, because
Yeah.
we're talking about committees and stuff.
yeah, because, that's, okay. I have a plan. Trust, trustee. Okay, down to trustee announcements. Yeah, that's right.
We skipped in.
Wait, I know, that's the one we.
Oh, you took it off, never
Yeah.
mind, you're totally right.
I know I had to cross it off because I would have been just like going down my list. Okay, so trustee announcements. First, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna talk about legislative session. There's, public school day, I would call it public education day, which is January 29th, Wednesday down in Helena. If anyone is interested in attending, Dave, Lucy, you're gonna go, you're going,
I'm going,
and
yeah.
Shannon's going, and so it's every other year, obviously, when legislature session, it's really interesting.
It is really.
It's really amazing.
This is one of two,
Okay, there's two of them.
but I think this one actually might be, the other one is sort of timed late, a little bit late.
Mhm.
And so some things have kind of already happened, whereas this one, nothing is really, but this
This is
is
just
actually.
gaining steam.
Yeah, this one.
So last time with Katie, Dave, Shannon and I went, we were chasing down, Lou Jones, trying to like get him to talk to him about passing the health insurance bill. And we were trying to get, they were like holding this money hostage. And we were like running all over the Capitol trying to find him, and he was like in hiding, because he knew all these, he knew there were all these public educators running around the Capitol, and he was like hiding from everybody, so anyways, we did our best.
It's really fun.
It was fun. But anyway, so if anybody else wants to go to Helena,
Scavenger.
on
Can
January
ride with
20th.
me if you like, I will.
Shannon's a safe driver, he has a CPR. Yeah, he has full cars. So that is one thing that I wanted to touch base on, that is happening. And then, committee assignments, I've been a little late on this, sorry, team. But doing a little revisions on the committee assignments. And, so we put. Rainey is going to take over for the Performing Arts Committee. We meet every couple months, Josh? Yeah. And then. I'm also, Rainey's also really interested in right now in the Superintendent Evaluation Committee, so she's gonna take my spot on that, so I'm gonna remove myself from the. Superintendent Evaluation Committee.
Anybody else want to be on?
Oh, would you rather get off of that one?
I mean, if there's somebody that. wants
Sure,
to.
Rainey can take your spot and I'll stay on then, that's fine. That sounds great, I didn't wanna push you off of it, cause I felt bad. Sounds like you can have my spot. So you can have Shannon's spot. And then Shannon, Katie, I have really good news for you. Shannon has taken your spot on IBD.
Thank you.
So, Shannon will move to IBD, like
And we'll get a,
WEA.
Not that I don't like it, it's just a lot of time.
It's nice to take turns.
Also,
It's nice to take turns.
Do we need to add the transportation committee to this?
For your two
The,
meetings.
oh,
task
yeah,
force.
but is there gonna be a board? No, there will not be.
it's not a standing committee.
It is not a standing
Okay.
committee, it was an ad hoc committee, it's a good
Okay.
question.
Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic, I'm
And-
sorry.
No.
There's-
Tuesday.
Well, I think it's a very good question, the ongoing advisory committee, I didn't anticipate a board member being on it, but it's certainly an option. if
Say
there is
no.
Interest.
But I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, so for those of you, IBB is when the district and the school and the teachers or the the staff bargain union, and they come together and negotiate contracts every year. So IBB stands for interest-based bargaining, and
It's a
come
whole thing.
together and kind of kumbaya it out together and be really friendly. It is actually a very good process, but it is very like.
As someone who's done it both ways, way better.
Unless you're lucky enough to pull Eden's card, then you, Elizabeth and Quincy are winning.
We are winning.
We'll just wait.
It's always.
You got those? Then we can talk about, yeah,
The rainy.
Brady's taking
Shannon.
Shannon's spot, Shannon's taking Katie's spot. Dang, I didn't get rid of anything.
And then I guess the conversation would be if there's like an ad hoc, as we go through this process, to circle back to what Shannon brought up. Like, do we need, like, we had the temporary advisory committee for transportation, we need a advisory human resource evaluation committee.
Right, so then, exactly, so do we need to put any sort of a taskmaster?
I feel like
Was
if
it
we're talking
too
about
early for that?
putting like deadlines on our priorities or making them more action oriented and stuff like that, I feel like since we made those priorities as a board, I feel like it would be helpful to have that as a board, like in a work session or something like that.
So that's what I was gonna talk about, is so,
That's a good idea.
B is coming on February 4th, we're gonna have that like board professional development work session, and so it's a really good time to readdress all of this, and so we can just have those conversations.
We'll revisit this on the.
We'll revisit this on the 4th.
That almost seems like it also involves policy and government.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
that would be where I would probably call out.
yeah, so we'll just talk about all of this on February 4th.
Okay, great.
Trust you. Like, I had, oh, and then, well, I guess this has been brought up several times now because we've been talking about the communication audit, but Darlene, who's our third party consultant for communication audit, will be reaching out to each trustee to help develop the questions and go over them to make sure we're getting the right questions to try to, get down to the root of what we're asked and answered. So she will be reaching out to everybody to make sure we're not just asking questions and then we're frustrated with the answers because they don't actually answer what we want answered, yeah. So she will be reaching out probably in the next week, I would imagine. You should be able to get them. So you should hear from her shortly. Are there any other?
I had just a question, sort of. Trustee-ish, not an announcement per se, that, I can't remember when. Is it in the summer that we get the calendar that goes over like each month, kind of what the topics are, the work sessions? And the government, that's a fancy word. I was like, when do we look at that?
It used to be in one of.
It used to be in our.
It used to be our materials. It used to be in our stuff, and I just can't find mine, and I thought.
I think when we redid our desk materials.
Would you like to have your governance calendar back?
Well, I think it's something to talk about, like when we talk about IRE and when we talk about, like when
Data when.
and making the work sessions / the board meetings, like.
So we can look at that as we,
Totally.
but I would say our work sessions and our board meetings have been hijacked by OPI until last year because of having to update our strategic plan and now the graduate profile, so it's completely wrenched all of those things, so, we're, right, as far as the iReady data, we've definitely kept that one in the fall, like we always have.
Yeah.
But
I was worried about getting that one earlier, actually. Anyways, that would just be something to
Oh.
talk about, the governance calendar, I think maybe we could.
I don't know if we can do that one. I don't know.
Well, maybe we could talk about the governance calendar at the February 4th meeting when we talk about the priorities and the timeline and just how it all fits together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm bringing it. It all feels like they all go together somehow and are all not quite on the
Yeah.
same. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
And
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I completely agree. We talked about
Yeah.
this concept that, there's been a lot of things that we're kind of responding to from the last legislative session.
Now they're at it
And
again.
now they're starting again.
Yeah.
So we may be asked to do a bunch of other new things. Too, but what's happened is it's taken up some of the time for us to discuss topics that you generally talk about with frequency on a regular basis prior to the meeting. So I think that's valuable time that we need to get back to in some way. And I love this, talk about the governance, looking at what we have. And is there some things that we need to adjust on? That's a great.
Before we move on, it's my turn to point out a missing L. Under WSD professional development, we are currently panning for K-12.
And that,
And the
Oh, yeah, planning.
And
panning for K-12
Instead of planning.
on the,
On the grid.
committee.
on the committee, no, I don't have anything to do with that. I wasn't sure what you were looking
It's
at.
supposed to be planning.
They can pan, do a little pan for.
Pan for
Like,
development. Dave, slightly aside, but with that February 4th meeting, once again, Quincy and I won't have a 2-on-1 probably that night, or will we?
I think we've gone down to once a month, 2 on ones anyway.
Oh.
Or no, are we two? Oh, yeah, I
No,
didn't have
we're
one on.
still
I didn't have,
two.
no,
I
my
think we
first one
talked
on that
about
night
this.
for me anyway.
I cut that down to 0.
We can talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's.
Okay.
Okay.
Is
we
it-
decided.
In your, we can touch base on it.
Yeah, but. Pick the one too.
I haven't changed.
No.
Any other trustee announcements?
Well, I just think that there's a House bill that we need to be hearing in this area, that's House Bill 156. And the proposal in House Bill 156 is that they combine all of the levies in the county into one county levy. And then, as I read it, distribute the funds out evenly from there, which would not bode well for us. Because
Well, nothing would ever pass again.
that's, and some people suspect that that's why this has been suggested.
So just so you know, I just started reading this 500-page thing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know for sure, but I think it might be that only covers the 80%. I think it's just a sort of a, instead of district-wide, it's county-wide. And but there are some redefinitions of what trustee do and what business officer do, so
It's a bill to
it's
watch.
way too big. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Your pages really.
No,
big.
but it's-
It's got a lot,
it's like, yeah.
but it's a bill to watch.
It's David Beatty's in Hamilton.
It is.
There is.
Yep.
Interesting.
It is at least 39, at least 40 days.
I think anything like that would be pretty, not to.
It's about replacing school district base levies with county-wide
Yes.
base levies.
Yes, so it would be
So it's
county.
not a voted levies.
No, but it
No.
would be, yeah,
Okay.
but there's a lot, there's 42 days. so-
But redistributing maybe some of the things. I don't know, it's just,
Yeah, something to be aware of. I thought you were talking about voted levies and I was like, that's,
no, I don't think it's,
no.
I thought it was too big.
I don't think it's.
No, it says it's base levies.
But it's a different way of looking.
Okay. Interesting.
Near as I can tell, with Wait
Think
for
Tank
Mark.
Thursday will probably be really good this Thursday, because I'll probably talk about all this legislative stuff, so that would probably be good. That's a great place to stay up to date on these things, yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any other trustee announcements? Moving on down the line to Dave.
All right. Well, again, Jake isn't here, but he's already gone over a lot of the activities in such detail, and it's such an outstanding job. But I think it is important to point out, we've talked a little bit about, there's basketball coming up, there's swimming coming up, it looks like, wrestling, speech and debate this weekend, we've got a lot of things right in terms of activities. It's neat to see. No school on the 20th. Bring up as well. And then no school for students on the 24th, just a reminder of that. So bring up those things. We've had this update on accreditation standards in here for a long time. I think I'm glad that it's in there because it reminds me to touch base on that. We are again in that accreditation process and we have a timeline. February 28th is our due date for submitting our accreditation standards for our second year of the process. We have to, by that date, we have to have our graduate profile completed. As well as a lot of other things that I think looking at Lisa, there's professional development and education for all. There's all kinds of things that we need to continue to communicate what we're doing. Licensure status of staff, things like that. So we're working on that document. There's a lot to it, but it's better than last year, I would say. They streamlined a few things and made it a little bit easier and more specific and detailed about what we need to provide them. So that's been helpful. We've been meeting with the OPI accreditation staff and making sure we're on top of that. But again, there is a timeline and a lot of work going into that deadline coming up. Anything you'd add, Lisa?
Not at this time.
We won't lock ourselves in a room like we did last time. I think we'll be okay. We're doing it in chunks of time instead of.
It's been
Days.
helpful that OPI has opened the portal and we can add things and it will save.
Yeah.
Last year, Dave was the only one that could access the portal and you couldn't save anything. So we had to have everything ready and then he had to shut himself in his office and upload it all at the same time. So they've made some progress and so I've gotten in there and I've uploaded a number of documents to try to expedite the process as much as possible.
It does highlight a lot of the new requirements and I think this has been impactful on our school in terms of our resources and our capacity to do things. I think it really has. It's been a significant impact on us, but far more so on smaller schools. So you can imagine what's happening to our smaller K-8 schools and in this area. The impact of this kind of thing on someone who's both a principal and superintendent. I think this has created a lot of extra work for schools that it's unfortunately, hopefully that OPI will continue to work on this and streamline that process for us to move forward. And they have made some progress and improvements in that and have listened to feedback, so I appreciate that.
And I would add, we feel pretty confident about our application.
Yes, we did very well on the last submission of that information. We think we'll do just fine as we move forward, but there are some timelines we're really focused on. I want to make sure I brought that up. And then the enrollment continues to change slightly from time to time, so we're seeing some decreases in overall, but we expect those fluctuations to occur, and we'll see next month what happens.
Dave?
Yeah.
Any explanation for why the independent high school dropped? Compared to last year? Fewer kids qualifying for it?
No, I think that has to do with ability matching staffing ratios to student ratios and making sure that we're meeting students' needs. That sound right? What?
Did you say compared to last year? I'm sorry.
Yes, oh, sorry, yeah, compared to last year,
What were the two numbers?
We have 27 this year and last year 30.
but they were all in the 30s last year and now they're all in the mid-20s.
Mr. John, would you provide an answer then?
Yeah, just a quick way. The independent high school has been utilizing the 25 number as our upper limit. We tried to stretch it. The need is greater than the ability to fill, or yeah, the need is greater than the ability to fill all the slots. So they wanted to try some different methods of scheduling for students that allowed additional students to get into the space. So they were offset parts of the day. And what they found is it started to compromise the feeling of community of the room. Part of the design of the independent high school is truly a family feel. And they build that through relationships with the students in a day-to-day basis. So they stretched it too far. So we came together and talked about what is our true capacity. We extended beyond. So that's the reason.
Thank you.
Okay.
no lack of need for the independent high school, huh? Thank you. Any other questions for Dave?
So I'm sorry,
Anything
I
else?
want to mention the, we've got the resignations there in front of you as well. Anything before I shut down, if I could just mention too, the legislative updates that you see, I believe you all receive. Montana School Boards Association updates, it's a great place to get information, they often provide professional development opportunities to get more information about what's happening, and things like that, so. I think this is a great time to keep an eye on those things, if you have any questions for me. Any legislative updates or something you're wondering about, monitoring those things as well.
Greetings from the. Business department has been very busy with, quite a few year-end, reports and documents to prepare for employees. Everybody's always excited to receive their W-2 reports. 1095 for the Affordable Health, Affordable Care Act. 1099 forms for independent contractors. So all that has been, occurring, at the same time. In addition to that, the preliminary budget for the 25-26 school year has been on, we've been working on that. The auditor is also working with us. The audit is almost all complete with some few items that are left for the on-site visit. So there's some audit work happening. And also the bond issuance has been taking a lot of our resources, because there's a lot to do as far as that goes. But everything is moving along nicely. You have our usual monthly report in front of you. There's nothing new that I would like to highlight. Well, perhaps, yes, on page number 1, which is the cash recap. If you look at miscellaneous fund 115, the negative cash balance is still very high because we have not received any grant reimbursements from OPI. And I've been trying to get that money for quite some time, but here we are. Oh. Other than that, everything is where it should be for this time of the year. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, just real quick, you say everything where it should be, are the revenue 33.9%, 31.7%, are those pretty much in line with where we?
Yes, and the reason why not all of it, when you look at those revenues, there's those funds, and you're looking at the other levied funds, right? Those funds are not reimbursed necessarily at the same time. So the transportation and the tuition revenue from the county only comes twice a year. The retirement levy also comes only twice a year, but it did at a different time than tuition and transportation. And that's why we see those differences there. So for example, the retirement funds will be receiving funding from the county in January.
General question, just as we're talking about the bond and just flashing back to your beautiful pie charts from Esther. As we look at the bonds and the money that it's gonna cost to build, et cetera, and we know our number, or how does that look? I wasn't on a board when we like built Mill Down and stuff, so like, so how do we track how much we're spending while we're building? That kind of thing? Do we do that? Does it come in a pretty pie chart? What is that?
Once we start spending money, the bond money, we can certainly provide some nice pie charts. And I'll be excited to listen. So usually what we, what we did with the Moldau project, budget is closely watched by myself, with the help of the owner's representative.
Yeah.
We usually work very closely together on the different categories of the budget and contingency.
Okay. So we'll get like monthly updates or something, along those lines, okay, just
Will be
interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot. You remember how you used to have a COVID line we'll have like a
That's what I was
building
wondering.
line, like here and there.
Yeah.
Like.
Except that the construction line item is much more fun than the COVID.
Yeah. Okay. So, look forward to how we are.
Pictures every month.
Oh,
Very
the pictures,
exciting.
yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Lucy? No? Awesome. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. The consent agenda, is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Sorry, I got all excited to turn the media. I remember.
No, gets it.
Any public comment? Yeah. Is there a motion?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
Second. Moved by Elizabeth, seconded by Quincy, all in favor? And then one last motion.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second, moved by Jerry, seconded by Quincy, all in favor? That is everybody. Thank you. Thanks to all of our guests. Thank you all for being here. Luke, I was gonna tell you, you don't have to stay till the end.
No, it's very interesting.
I feel like I got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see if you hear yourself. Yeah, you're like, I'm out of here. You saw Jake, Jake speaks out. It's all right. Yeah.
It's good to get a feel for it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't take it back.